Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to the off day, our latest Double Take Productions creation. I'm once again excited to be here with Dylan McCaffrey. Dylan, it's been a while. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Good to see that face again. How we feeling today, man? How we feeling?
We're feeling all right today. Today was a long one. Entering into the MLB lockout, I had a long
Oof.
day of scrubbing every inch of every player's face off of social media wall and YouTube today. An interesting start to what should be an interesting few months. I mean,
It's
I'm,
funny.
I mean, I'm excited for progress. We're gonna get somewhere with this, hopefully, and if not, then I guess there's gonna be a lot of fans at Polar Park next season for some minor league baseball.
Yeah, it's funny. For those who don't know, Dylan is a Worcester Red Sox employee, and I didn't even think about how the lockout would affect you guys. Oh, there it is. There it is. The seems to be a MAGA edition of the Boss Sox hat. um,
It's
I
for the Rhode Island job lot.
Yes, yeah, I do remember that day. Good times, good times. But it is a crazy thing that we are reaching an MLB lockout. We'll be covering that later in the show. But I did want to start with the NFL, obviously, but not only just because it's the most prominent sport, because there is a storyline, something that's brewing in the NFL world that is personal to you, and that is the fact that the Miami Dolphins have a very, very real path to the playoffs that came out of seemingly nowhere. And you have a game against the Giants this week. How are we feeling about it? How do you think this game's going to play out?
The Dolphins and the Giants are on opposite trajectories. The Giants are slowly realizing Daniel Jones is not the guy. Tua is having the best run of his career, his young career. And a couple weeks ago, we had won a game, and we looked up and we're like, you know what? We play the Jets next. We're gonna play the Giants. We're gonna play the Jets again. The Panthers. We're gonna play some easy matchups. Like, we might look up and be 500 in a matter of time, and we're well on the way. The very frustrating thing is that we're not. The way we're playing is we're picking up where we left off last year. We're running the same like empty blitz set, and we're running it every single down. Like the Ravens game, we blitzed like an all-out blitz 35 times out of like 55 plays. Like we're just chasing Lamar out of the pocket, unblocked, and it's great to see us come back to life, because I thought that like our whole rebuild was in jeopardy. Like, I thought that our coach was going to have to go. I thought that our quarterback, our GM, I thought that it was all lost, and it all built up to nothing.
Let's pump the brakes. Let's pump the brakes just a tiny bit, right? Because before you declare the rebuild back on and the process still turning, I think you have to get to 500 first. And I think that you can't look past this Giants team. I sound crazy, and I know that. But this Giants team has been in contention with solid teams in the past this season. Obviously very inconsistent, and they're very lucky to have come away with a win versus the Philadelphia Eagles. But I do like the hope. That being said, I do like the hope, and I do like what I'm seeing in terms of, like you said, getting back to what made the Dolphins successful last year, like being aggressive. And aside from the defensive aggressiveness, I really enjoyed Tua, man. I really enjoyed Tua because, I've never rooted against this guy. And I think people were jumping off the bandwagon so quickly. And a guy who just reached 16 games as an NFL starter. It's insane how quick that we give up on people, especially, let's be honest, man, an organization that's not exactly the most stellar track record. It's crazy that people are already giving up on some of these guys, the Zach Wilsons, right? Even Trevor Lawrence starting to doubt if he has that it factor. These are guys in less than desirable situations. Tua was fighting with Fitzmagic all last year for playing time, for better or for worse. So, like, I'm just glad to see that the media narrative is starting to come back onto his side and saying, like, maybe he can still be a more than solid NFL starting quarterback.
Brian Flores, my biggest gripe with him to date has been that he hasn't believed in Tua. It's been very frustrating.
True. No, it's true.
They've been pulling him in and out of games. Jacoby Brissett was awful to watch this year. Those games, completely unwatchable. Tua at least brings excitement when he plays. He's clutch. Like, I can't say it enough.
He's a winner.
But he leads us on drives that, like, late in games, that when it seems like they open the playbook for him because they're in desperation mode, And when he has options to throw down the field, he's able to march the offense into enemy territory. I don't know. Like we can run short plays and lose games year after year with these quarterbacks that we don't trust. But if we trust this guy a little bit and we have some weapons now, like Jalen Waddle, who's racking up yards, we're going to string them together. I mean, I believe in this team, not necessarily to make the playoffs, but if we ended the season and people were like, the Dolphins, they make the playoffs, but they're like a top 10 team, I'd take it. I'd ride into next season with some high hopes of what could be. We have a lot of money in free agency, hopefully coming up. We don't need to make the playoffs for you to be happy. That's where I'm at as a Dolphins fan.
200%. And I do think it is interesting. I can't remember. You're a Dolphins fan, so you know. Has Flores ever come out in a press conference and been like, Tua is the guy? Like, not like our starting quarterback. Like, Tua is the guy. Like, our franchise is invested in this guy. Has he ever come out and said that?
He says that constantly, and people overlook it because of the Deshaun Watson rumors, and it's a tough spot for Flores to be in because while he's out there saying Tua's the guy, Tua says, I mean, they tell me I'm the quarterback, and everything in rumors is saying about how our GM and front office is like shipping or shopping Tua left and right and inquiring all they can about Deshaun Watson. Apparently, like on the night of the trade deadline, Stephen Ross like personally called Deshaun Watson.
Wow.
But like Brian Flores has always said Tua is the guy, but then you see him on the bench while Jacoby Brissett is laying an egg out there.
It's certainly crazy. Obviously, Jacoby Brissett is where he is in the NFL right now for a reason. Like, when he was on the Colts, like you saw like flashes here and there, and I think you still do in terms of him being a game manager, someone who's not going to lose you games. But man, he's looked terrible this year, and I feel like Tua, like you said, brings a level of excitement. Like, let's be honest, man, even if this guy crashes and burns, it's exciting for the media because of the narrative and because of the whole entire story of boom or bust when it comes to quarterback. And, just so we're not talking about, Dolphins Giants too long, I do want to talk about a guy who's been booming all year, a guy who, I always thought could be very successful because of his wit and, his experience in winning, and went to the same college as Tua. It's this Mac Jones led Pats team and this AFC Championship preview game, possibly, that we have coming up in the Pats and Bills. Now, I might be crazy, and the Bills might come and just give a shellacking to the Pats. I think the Pats are like head and shoulders above the Buffalo Bills right now. That's just where I stand. And I just feel like that there's so much more question marks surrounding Buffalo and what they're actually good at compared to the Pats. Am I crazy for saying that?
The Patriots are on a 6-game win streak. It's the longest win streak in the league. In second, and for tied second, you have the Chiefs and the Dolphins. But yeah, Patriots won 6 in a row. They're legit. People are saying they're the all-around best football team in the league, that they're the most complete and well-rounded and well-coached. And that's a scary prospect. I don't want to see a Patriots Super Bowl run for the next decade. And even if it doesn't happen this year, I think that they're primed to maybe be in this race for a bit longer than we had all hoped. And it's upsetting. The silver lining is that the Bills are not the juggernaut that we all were afraid they would be. Josh Allen and his team has looked a little more human in their recent losses. And I expect the Patriots to win this game. Like, I've flipped my opinion on the season, and like, I don't think the Bills, I don't know, Bills Patriots AFC Championship. I'm looking at the Chiefs still. Ravens just lost to the Dolphins, so I'm over them. But yeah, I don't know.
It's funny that you believe, or like you are hopeful for your team, but you mark a team losing to your team as just being the end of their legitimacy as a contender.
I mean, if you can't beat the Dolphins, you're going to win a Super Bowl. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Listen, I have the same feeling. The Steelers, who beat the Bills, if the Bills can't beat the Steelers, then I don't know how much I believe in them either. So I feel you, man. I really do. However, I do think it just comes down to what I saw in that Colts game. The Colts ran it down their throat, and the Pats have been able to use a myriad of different running backs to have success over most of the teams they've faced. Just trying to get their running game established has not really been much of a struggle for them. So for me, in terms of time possession, in terms of identity, it just seems like everything is coming up Patriots, which it's just where did this all of this madness, all of this parody, all this who knows who is kind of brings us right back to Pat's Chiefs. Does it not? Does it not seem like things are trending right back to where we started? I think there's some law of physics or some, probability that everything regresses back to the mean. It just it's disappointing, like you said, but I mean, I don't want to make you make a prediction, but if you're betting your money, Pats, Chiefs, those seem like the two most confident AFC teams right now, right?
I'm taking Pats Chiefs from where I sit right now. I think the Titans have an outside shot if they can get any of their weapons back because all the wheels are falling off what seemed like a tank.
It's true.
The AFC is crazy competitive this year. There's three teams, 4 teams below 500. The Dolphins are 5-7. So there's 3 teams that are like really have losing records. And every other team in the AFC is 6-6, 5-5, 7-4. Like they're all in this tight race. I don't know who's going to come out in this playoff ladder, but I think that from this middle pack of like you have your Bengals and your Chargers and your Colts and whoever else, I think that the Chiefs stand above it as well as the Patriots right now. And the Bills I put in that conversation, but if the Bills take a loss on Sunday and they're 7-5, they're sitting amongst that giant pack of teams that are all clawing their way up and trying to sneak a playoff spot in this weird year we're having.
It's definitely going to come down to the wire. But it's funny enough, like I think we just forgot. I think we forgot about years where there wasn't a Chiefs and there wasn't, the Pats didn't seem as dominant. This used to be more of a regularity. Like you wouldn't really know who was going to be the it team like 12 weeks into a season. I'm excited to have it back for sure. Now, before we move on to hoops, I just want to reiterate a point that I made last week, and that has to do with the MVP race. Listen, man, I don't like it. Like I said last week, I don't like it. But if it's been any more clear than it is now, like we can all agree, Aaron Rodgers, he's got to be the MVP right now. Because if you're not giving it to him, you're probably giving it to Brady. And
geez, that'd
Brady, dude, let's think about the hierarchy right now. Like, what did Lamar throw? 5 interceptions? Like, you can't win an MVP when you have a 5 interception game. You can't. Brady, I think it depends on the Bucs' success. But you saw in games when he didn't have Antonio Brown, didn't have Rob Gronkowski, that he was severely affected by that. Like, and then Derrick Henry gets hurt, and that's the end of his run. Kyler Murray, same deal. Call me crazy, but like there really doesn't seem to be any other answer.
I wish it could be like Saquon Barkley or someone that I could root for. Like Aaron Rodgers, I would be rooting for. Like, yeah, let's have Aaron Rodgers beat Brady for the MVP. But he's lost my heart. It's so sad to see.
I know.
He had the sick Halloween costume, John Wick, long hair,
the Apex.
Great. Yep. Came crashing down with the COVID, and his hair is still growing. It looks terrible. He looks like a discount Clay Matthews with his little stringy long hair. I don't want to see that guy represent the NFL. I'm tired of seeing Brady represent the NFL. Mahomes hasn't had the year for it, and so I don't know who else you can hand it to.
I mean, if the Colts win out this season, Jonathan Taylor has as solid a case as Derrick Henry did. But he's a running back. He's a running back. And if you're talking about most valuable and how the season's gone, no one's like to admit it. And you know what? The thing is I think it's impossible for Aaron Rodgers to win the MVP because of what he did and because it is a media-driven award and because it is a narrative-driven award. It's going to be impossible for him. But he is in a whole different tier when it comes to the MVP race this year. And there's not a lot to deny that, which is very unfortunate.
Do you think the NFL is like cognizant enough of COVID and sensitive enough to say like this guy shouldn't be who we are like celebrating? Or do you think that it is along with the NFL's beliefs to be like, no, like, I don't know,
Like we
to
don't
take
care.
Aaron Rodgers' side? Like, yeah, we don't care. Like, players can just do what they please. And the NFL is about free speech and free choice.
Yeah, the NFL's really been about free speech. Listen,
I
I
mean,
don't.
when it's Aaron Rodgers, you
Right,
know,
right. No, and that's the thing is like I don't trust the NFL's you know kind of
moral compass.
policies or yeah their protocol and really anything. Um, that being said, I do think that they face an immense amount of pressure coming into these last this last third of the season with the MVP because it's almost unspeakable to think that he will win the MVP. But if this pattern progresses and the Packers keep winning and there's no other guy, they're gonna have to make a hard decision. And you're right. Like, to answer your question, like, do I trust them? Do I think they're gonna make that move? I think that it would have to be such a damning case for the Packers and Aaron Rodgers to win that award. Like they would literally have to do super well, probably lose maybe one game, and then I think they would give it to Aaron Rodgers. I really do because they wouldn't have no choice. Now, if it's debatable, I think they're going to give it to Brady, which is a Mickey Mouse MVP if I've ever seen one. So I think that's honestly worse in my
If the
opinion.
Patriots go to the AFC Championship and Brady wins MVP, I'm gonna throw a fit.
It's disgusting. I'm gonna be real, but more disgusting things have happened, and I don't know how it's going to play out. I think it's super intriguing. Now, just talking hoops,
Yeah,
um,
let's swing it over to basketball.
where there's order and law and peace, right? Not maybe not peace, but a sense of logic in this league for sure. And I just want to talk about the Suns because I think that the Suns are a team that even making the finals didn't really get the credit they deserve going into this season. Like, despite making that deep playoff run, there's always going to be people that discount what they did. And I just think that the Phoenix Suns like deserve the benefit of the doubt now, especially after this win streak. I don't know. What do you think is the trajectory for the Suns, or are they just the new Jazz?
I that's a good way to put it, the New Jazz actually, because they were a team when they got to the finals last year where I was like, look at the Phoenix Suns, like just the Lakers go down early and they just are able to slip their way through and get to the finals. Like Chris Paul could get his ring, but I never thought they were like among the teams that have won in the last 10 years. Like I wouldn't have given the Suns like a 2K classic team for last year's season, but they're coming out this year and they look like Golden State. Like they just beat them last night, and
Mm-hmm.
they look like this well polished machine with these dominant players. And the Utah Jazz are in a league of their own as far as being boring and just hard to watch and like have no care to see them succeed for whatever
Yeah,
reason.
no, I
The
agree.
Suns, the Suns are kind of fun in my opinion. Like they were fun to root for when they stunk in the bubble when they went 8-0 and
Yep.
like could have made the playoffs after everything that happened. Like that was a lot of fun to watch, and they have the right attitude for a team. Like they just like prove so many people wrong about them by getting to the finals. People still like think less of them, and now they're rolling through this season. I think the Suns are a legitimate threat, and they're so young. If they re-sign Aiton and Chris Paul can milk a few more years out, they could be a top team for a
No,
minute.
I agree, and I think that Sarver probably out as owner, by the end of the year, or at least you hope, and that way they might get an owner that's willing to get DeAndre Ayton locked down. So now you have this core that's like, you know, Chris Paul is getting up there in years, but you still have Booker, you still have Bridges, you still have Ayton. You can start to build a bit of a legacy off of that, which I think is important. Continued success in the NBA is important to build that pedigree. Um, I'm almost ready to accept them into the family of contenders. Like the NBA family of contenders, it's not, every team. And there's a lot of teams that has been kicked out of the family, like maybe the Spurs, you would say. But I think I'm ready to say that they are a team that we're probably going to be looking at for the next few years to 5 years to who knows how long as like somewhat of a contender. It's not as much here's where I don't believe. Here's the argument against. What is this team going to look like without Chris Paul? I it's really hard for me to imagine that. And he's such a huge thing of what they, huge part of what they do. He's not going to be around for like many more seasons. He can eat all the vegetables and, do all the treatments that he wants. He's getting up there in years and he's a small guy. So this fairy tale for Chris Paul is going to end at some point. So what are like the
When
keys to
he
success for the Suns, past him?
when he was away from the team in the playoffs, I was really worried that it was all going to fall apart. But the offense that he helped build and they were able to achieve, it didn't really miss many steps without Chris Paul. Like his
They don't
expertise
have
was
campaign
missing,
anymore.
but that's fair enough. But I think that also goes along with just playoff intensity and like you play a team 5, 6, 7 times in a row, you get in tune with them and you can play on a higher level. Uh, I think that they can survive without Chris Paul, though. I think that it's Devin Booker. Like if Devin Booker had an injury season, or if they aren't able to like get anyone else to maybe join them down the line, then I know Booker before they got good was like, listen, I want to win. Like I'm here, but like maybe I shouldn't be. Like maybe this isn't the place I can, you know, make my name for myself. But he was missing all those all-star teams because they weren't winning any games. But now that he's happy and they're winning, I think that that's a dynasty in the making.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I think that everything has gone well in the development of their young talent, and you just think like if they had drafted Halliburton instead of Jalen Smith, this is like an even better team. But they got some good young guys, and I think you have to look at how Bridges has progressed and be happy, and just be glad that they're healthy because we're looking at a lot of young stars, young NBA players, rookies getting hurt. Among among all of them, the most concerning is Zion because news came out recently that Zion has suffered another setback. Who knows when he's going to be able to come back? The Pelicans told us initially that he would be back for opening day. That was the expectation. We are now how many games into the NBA, and this guy, there's no sight of him coming back. There's no light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. I just don't know. I just don't know, and it's so disappointing if you're a Pelicans fan. One, because you're a Pelicans fan, and two, this is supposed to be your answer out. This is supposed to be your ticket to legitimacy, and it just seems to you just seem to like lose hope as fast as you get it with this guy.
If you're the Pelicans and you say, oh, Zion's going to be back at the start of the year, and then he isn't, you say, oh, well, maybe he's going to miss 10, 20 games. And then you look up 24 games later and you're 6-18, you might be saying, all right, like there's no more need to rush him because we've blown it again. As long as Zion weighs what he weighs, injuries like this are going to happen. Like you're going to get like a foot sprain, you're going to get like an ankle soreness. Like those are going to happen if you just continue to try and play professional basketball with the load that he's carrying. And there's no other way to put it. Like that's where injuries come from. That's how your body falls apart. Like, I don't know. I sometimes I see like his high school footage and see how high he flies and like the shape he's in, and even his Duke footage. And it's I think that him in college, I don't know. It's hard to say. I want to say that him in college like would perform better than this version of him in the NBA, but he did average. Like he did carry them last year. Like he was legit a great player that was able to use his size to create huge advantages.
Well, if you're the Pelicans, like extending this guy, you have to look at Michael Porter Jr., right? The Nuggets might regret that deal for the next 6 years. Like you're talking about like implications going much farther than what you're looking at right now. So if you're New Orleans, like you got this guy, he was completely dominant when he was in there. I mean, you're talking about like possible all NBA, like you can make the argument, like that's kind of the performance he was having last year. Maybe not first team, but still like very solid player. Extending that, like I don't know. I don't know if he's a big trade candidate now. I don't know if another team would be willing to roll the dice, like maybe the Knicks. I do not envy David Griffin right now to try to make that decision. I don't. It's very to me it would be one of the most confusing, one of the most polarizing decisions I would have to make. And if I'm being real, like I don't know if I'm going to do it because like you said, if he's at the weight he is, he's going to continue to get injured. And this is by far not the first injury. This is like a history of fragility that I just don't know is going to end anytime soon.
Not to mention that for them to get better, he needs to be there so they can win. And he is unhappy in New Orleans because he doesn't think that this is like the franchise that's gonna make the best use of his career. So it's just a boulder or a snowball that keeps building. If you're not going to play, and then they're not going to win, and then everyone's unhappy, no one wants to come play with you. It's only going to get worse.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think the only sliver of hope, the only thing that you can compare it to is Embiid. Because when Embiid was, if you remember, like when Embiid was first drafted and he, was dealing with like injury after injury, and they would play him like one game and he would sit two. And when you saw the flashes, you were excited, but you really had major doubts. Now Embiid is like a relatively durable guy. He had the knee thing last year, but he played through it. And you don't really worry about his health as much. And that's because of a few years of just like seeing him go through the motions of an NBA season. Um, for Zion, it's like you really hope that's the best case scenario. And for Michael Porter Jr., like, listen, I'm dealing with the back problems myself. I'm dealing with the same nerve root compression Michael Porter Jr. is dealing with. I'll be real with you, man. If your favorite athlete gets back surgery, you can wave goodbye to what that athlete was before. Like it's not like
He's
it is a
had back
lifetime.
surgery before. That was
100%.
that was like the risk with drafting him. Before his draft, he was like a number one overall projected guy that slipped down to like the late lottery
Yeah.
because of his injury problems. He has the same back surgery that like Steve Kerr had before he ever played an NBA game. And he came out and finally when the Nuggets were willing to play him, he had 19 points a game last year. And maybe that's the best he ever gets if he can't get back on the court. It's scary.
It's a lifetime injury. There's no way around it. It's not, I'm gonna wait for this to heal up. It's not a torn ligament. It is a lifetime injury, and it's going to come back up even in the best case scenario. So to me, it's a hard contract to look at nowadays. I mean, like you said, this guy had the worst physical of any draft prospects. Like, any lottery draft prospect. Like, this is very concerning. Like, there's no way around it. Now, I mentioned Embiid, and I want to quickly talk about the Celtics before we move on. We have to talk about the Celtics. We haven't talked about the Celtics enough, in my opinion. And
yeah, we were trying to be fair.
Are we back? Like, is 12-10? It's not the start that I really wanted, but that's because we have high expectations. But it seems to be in the last 10 or so games, the defensive identity is really starting to shape up. It really kind of reminds me of what Miami is doing. Like, we seem to be more of a grit and grind. I love it. I love it because of what we were last year, a soft, sorry team. Now we are punching people in the teeth. We are clamping people down. We're going for game-winning blocks instead of game-winning shots. It's a great thing. What are you seeing from the Celtics team that has you smile?
I enjoy watching this team so much more when we fight at the end of games. Like, we clamp down on defense as our identity at the end of games instead of just like trying to have someone have a hero night like Tatum or Brown. Like, we're playing team basketball when we're moving the ball up the floor, and occasionally it does regress into like we're playing well, we're sharing the ball, and then someone gets a little hot, and then all of a sudden it's that person. Like, Dennis Schroeder has taken a few too many shots in the last 90 seconds of the last few games, because before the last few games he was having a pretty incredible run. Like against the Sixers, I definitely would have liked the ball in Tatum's hands one of those last possessions, because it ended up being way too close of a game. But you're right, the defensive identity is back.
Yeah, no, and we need to get back to that, because it's as soon as like we're getting marked as a weak, soft team, like the whole league's gonna get put on notice. And like, I think yesterday was really nice because it threw me back. It brought me back to pre-pandemic times. It brought me back to 2018, 2017, 2019. These years where we had Al Horford and we're reminded that Al Horford is Embiid's father. And
Sure.
And the Sixers were just
That's why they
never.
signed him.
It's true. It's true. And the Sixers were never really a concern to us. Like if we faced them in the playoffs, we weren't worried about it. And all of a sudden, it became in a year. Oh my gosh, we have to face Embiid. How are we going to defend that guy? What are we going to do? Like we got dominated by every good big man down low. So
People forget that the Sixers bought Al Horford because they couldn't beat him. People
it's
forget
true.
that they signed for 25 million a year a 37-year-old to back up their best player, and it was a mess.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
spend
No,
money. You have Ben Simmons on your team. You spend your money on a backup power forward center, and it was just because he's Embiid's dad, and they couldn't have him out there.
no. And you saw what that game was. Again, bring me back to good times. Like, yeah, maybe Tatum didn't have 50 points. Like maybe we didn't have Kemba or Kyrie or some ball dominant point guard to put on a show. It was just like you said, defensive grit and grind combined with the fact that we neutralized their best players. So our best players didn't have to have the game of their lives for us to win. And what did we see last year? If Tatum or Brown, if one of them didn't score 35 or more, we lost. That was it. Now, the other team scores 85 points. It gives a guy like Schroeder, him scoring 20 points on that night is huge. The impact is so much more than when we're giving up 130 points. Like you're making a game more applicable to us and the players that we have. And that's what I love to see. And that's why I take this 12-10 and I say it's more than just a almost 500 team. It's a team trending in the right direction. It's a team finding identity. It's a team getting back to winning ways, which is just, it's so refreshing and I'm happy to see it. Now, I don't want to switch gears too abruptly, but just because I think it's a great parallel, talking about getting back to winning ways, getting back to good times. These baseball free agent signings have been insane. And this is by far not the biggest move. By far not the biggest move. But JBJ is back. And it just, whether you like giving away Renfro or not, if you're a Sox fan, you have to feel a level of nostalgia. You have to feel a level of we got back a winner. We got back a guy who was a part of the most recent title run, and that means something, does it not?
It's nice to have him back. It's wonderful. He when he left, it was heartbreaking, and just a year later, we get a wonderful little reunion. Hunter Renfro is great and had a lot of great moments for us, but down the stretch of the playoffs, we saw his defense cost us runs,
Yeah.
and when this is to blame on everyone, but when we were out there dying, where was his bat? His
Yep.
defense was hurting us, and him, along with everyone else, couldn't hit the ball. So I understand the being upset that he's gone. I understand that JBJ hit 163 last year, 166. It was bad, whatever it was. But I also recognize that this team has a number of outfielders. Like
Yeah.
JD Martinez with healthy legs can be an outfielder on a bad day. We need him. Jaron Duran, up and coming, can be the center fielder for a stretch of games.
Yeah.
JBJ provides like a real defensive presence in our outfield. He can make up for lost ground covered in left and right center field. I think that it's great to have him back, especially we get some prospects. We save a lot of money. It's a good move for us, I think.
It's a Heim Bloom move for sure, if I've ever seen one. The guy does not care about the mood of the fans. He doesn't. He's a business guy, which to me, I can try to appreciate. I really can. And I do think this is a move that I don't think is going to bite us in the ass. I really don't see it happening. And I just like to have JBJ back, man. He is a part of this team. And I'm sure guys in the clubhouse are very happy to see him back, despite losing Renfro. Now, Scherzer, by far, to me, most impactful signing so far. Like, because not only is Scherzer giving the Mets another ace on top of the ace they already have, it's giving the Mets this aura, this energy that they are going out and getting guys that they want. They don't care. We're going all in, and we're not going to be this disappointing team anymore. Like Scherzer brings that kind of intensity and culture change just because of the guy he is. To me, I just think he brings so much more to the table than aside from his dominant pitching performances that we've seen in the last couple of years. It's if I'm a Mets fan, I'm excited. I really have to be, over the moon about that one. I don't know. What do you think about it?
I'm first and foremost glad that he's off of the Dodgers because they've
Yep.
become a rival of ours, even though
Yes.
we dealt with them. But the Mets, I want to succeed. That's what I've decided. Like it's been fun to watch the circus show that has been the Mets for the span of my life. They think they're good and then they're not. They have good players who then become bad. It's been a mess. They spend all their money into a Ponzi scheme and lose it all. Big trouble. So I'm glad that maybe this culture change can help them make a little run because if they're going to spend the money, it's got to go somewhere. I like that he's off the Dodgers. That's my first and final thought.
No, yeah, and I do agree with that. I think he's too much. The Dodgers, when they have too much, it's annoying. Um, but another added little bonus is that the Mets are really starting to make a case for who's out there in New York. Like, who is the baseball team out in New York who is going to go get it?
Is it a
Like
lateral move to you that they lost Syndergaard, so they just replaced him?
I'm not worried about that if I'm a Mets fan. If you're a Mets fan and it's you know if it's October of this year and someone says you're gonna get Scherzer for Syndergaard, forget about it. Like they're pounding that move every day of the week.
One of
Now,
those guys like has been there many times and has proven his playoff dominance, and that's Scherzer.
yeah, the idea of Syndergaard is nice, right? But I think what Mets fans saw is like the actual reality of him is that he's not Scherzer, he's not an ace, and that's fine. He was still a great pitcher, but having Scherzer there, right? It's just like I said, it's a culture change, and like I said before, the point I was trying to make: if you're a Yankees fan, you got to be frustrated because this was you. You were the guy with all the poker chips at the table, bullying everyone else. Like now, you got this new owner right across the block that's schooling you. That is taking you that's taking you to town, getting every big guy that they want. Whereas the Yankees, I mean, paging Cashman, where are you? Like,
Yeah,
you're supposed to be this, like, you're the Yankees. You're big money. You're big money. You print money. Like, and the fact that,
I love the Yankees' new direction. The
oh,
Yankees
it's great.
for our all of history until basically the last 15 years just like couldn't be beat and
Mhm.
could get every single player they had an all-star team every year. And for whatever reason, we've been blessed with just watching them struggle and fail, and I love it.
It's like they don't want it. It's like they don't want it. It's like they're content with selling out Yankee Stadium, selling their $15, Heinekens, and calling it a day, because the winning ways of this team are just gone. I like it, and by winning ways I mean being content with extending a manager who just finished third in the division. It means not getting these big guys, not going after guys like Baez, Scherzer, Seager, guys that really could have helped you. And it's it's just funny because they used to be the Mets. They used to be the guy with the owner that was going after every big guy, and your team and your fan base was pissed because you wanted this guy, but the Yankees got him, of course. Like how much has changed? Think about like the offseason where it was Manny Machado, Bryce Harper. These guys were on the, and it would be a joke to hear the Mets try to go and get one of these guys. Like
And
it would be a joke.
there's no reason the Mets shouldn't be like this always. The Mets
It's
are a New
true.
York City team. Like anyone that
Yes.
comes to wants to come play in
Yes.
New York City and doesn't want to play for the Yankees has a total alternate option that is also right in the middle of New York.
It's the same New York in
Shea
different
Stadium,
colors.
or sorry, City Field, nicer than Yankee Stadium.
It's better than
Sorry,
Yankee
it's true.
Stadium, 100%. And I think Mets fans might even be more appreciative because I think what we're finding out with the Yankees is that like it's a team living in the past. They're just living in the past, and that's like the culture, and that is like the vibe that you've gone from the past 10 years of Yankees baseball is just living in the past, being okay with the fact that they used to be this big dynasty. and now they could sell tickets because
Aaron Judge recently looking great with his beard. Too bad it'll never see the diamond. They're just living in the past. These old fashioned notions.
it's true. They can't even let Judge be Judge. And the idea that they're going to rely on the current roster as it stands right now, relying on guys like Hicks, relying on guys like, like Joey Gallo, like you got to be crazy to think that you're going to go into this next season and even beat us, who like we're getting guys like we're high and blooming it. We act like the Rays out here. We're still creating a better roster and bringing guys back that have some value. Like the Yankees fans are not going to be pumped with Peraza and Cashman just saying like, oh, I think that we're good enough to win because we were how many games away, 2 years ago against the Astros and they cheated and we should have won. Like it's just so like it's great. It's great. It sounds like I'm ranting about the Yankees, but it's great.
Do you remember with like Billy Beane how like obviously the create success of Moneyball, the invention of the system, and the Red Sox going off from this huge contract, and he was like, "You can make Moneyball work, but you can have the money to back it up." And he was like, "No, I'll stay in Oakland." We just went and got Chaim Bloom and got like a younger. You take Jonah Hill and you take Brad Pitt and combine them into one. Now you have Chaim Bloom, and he's running Moneyball with a huge payroll. And I'm excited for what he's going to do after this long ass lockout that might not even end before we're supposed to be having opening day.
It's true, and that is in the back of our minds. And just one last point before we move on the last part of our show. It's just like you said, the Chaim Bloom effect. I really don't think he's done. I think that there is a big move coming before the next season. That's my prediction.
Agreed.
I just think there's a big move coming for next season. I think Chaim Bloom's gonna win everyone over with it too. I believe in the guy.
The midnight JBJ deal was like, let's like free up our payroll a little bit ahead of all these renegotiations. And let's get a guy, JBJ obviously like a lovable homegrown guy, like the best attitude you can want in a locker room, solves your defensive issues. Even if he's just like a late innings defensive replacement, he's been clutch in clutch moments, and he's the best defensive center fielder in baseball.
Yep. No, I believe that to this day. Now, if you didn't have anything else about baseball, it has been a little bit of time since we did our last show because we took the week off last week for the holidays. And I guess if I'm going to want to guess our highlight and low light of the week will probably be related to Thanksgiving and what happened, if I'm not mistaken. Dylan, but how was it? Like how was seeing everyone, the travels, the whole 9 yards?
It was wonderful to be home for Thanksgiving. See my grandparents. Jeez. My grandfather, I showed him for the first time, like the Snapchat filters where you can make yourself look like a dog and whatnot. And he absolutely loved it. We had a great time with that. Good, wholesome Thanksgiving fun. Also over Thanksgiving, I bought myself some plane tickets to go to LA for New Year's and my birthday.
Wow.
So that hasn't happened yet, obviously. That might be the low light because I just spent like way too much money on a week-long vacation. But yeah, it feels good to know that after this next couple of weeks of grinding through these holiday merch promotions and these festival of lights and tree lightings and everything else, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and that light is the sun on the Santa Monica beach.
That sounds incredible. I am happy for you. You deserve it.
I appreciate it. I hope I'll see you out there one of these days. We'll get one of these trips aligned one of these days. What about you? How's your Thanksgiving?
It was pretty great. Good to see everyone, especially my Army Ranger military brother, who you don't really know when you're going to be able to see him. It's kind of unexpected.
The way it goes.
You take it when it comes. It's like an actually solid Steelers win. It's like you don't know if it's going to come. You don't know if it's going to. But when it does, it's amazing, and you seek the opportunity out. And he brought his new girlfriend that we have not met before, also in the military, and his new puppy named Waffles, a German Shepherd puppy who his paws are too big for his body right now because he's a puppy and he's tripping over his paws and whatnot. A very cute sight, very great. A funny little highlight of this year's Thanksgiving was my sister actually has been dating this guy for about, over a year, whatnot. So, all the relatives start asking her questions. He unfortunately couldn't make it to Thanksgiving this year, but just hearing all the questions, it's really funny. And it made me realize something, Dylan. We're both guys who want to be in this big relationship or whatnot, but you get a lot of perks out of just not having that pressure on you, because I'm telling you, when she walked in there, it was kind of like, like the paparazzi or like the media flocking onto this
Right.
person, asking her questions, have a microphone in her face. And the funniest moment was my very Korean grandmother in Korean basically saying that Rachel needs to propose soon because the guy's going to change his mind if she doesn't.
That's what you want to hear from grandma.
That is the moment I realized that I do not envy the situation Ashley at all. Because if I
think
heard
that you and your brother and sister are in very different spots. Your brother comes home, a new girlfriend, new puppy, waffles,
fresh face,
cute.
Yeah. There's no media.
He's in the honeymoon phase still. He's gonna get to your sister's place later next Thanksgiving.
100%. Next Thanksgiving, he will be in that spot. So a little bit of a learning lesson, a little bit of a perspective moment, and you know what? It's just great with the whole entire pending, Omicron, crisis. It's just great to know that these gatherings can still happen, and you appreciate them while they do. So that being said, I think that's a great place to end it. It's going to do it for this episode of The Off Day. Remember to like, subscribe, listen to us on Apple Podcasts as well. Dylan, is there anything that you want to end with? I'm putting you on the
Fins,
spot.
man. Fins up. Roll Fins. It's the team you want to believe in. It's the feel-good story of the year.
It's true. And I know if I do end up seeing you at some point and they do win, I will be hearing the song. Miami Dolphins. Yeah, oh yeah.
Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, you know what? And I'm looking forward to it. I really am. So great place to end. Take care, man.